Hi, my name is Octavia Barrett, and today we are going to learn how to create a normal and expedited change request using Sharewell Change Management. To create a new change, you want to go to New Change Request. Now we have our main screen here with all of our fields that are outlined in red are required fields that we need to enter. Our first field is requester, so we'll go ahead and fill that in. Our change type is going to be normal, and this is for normal and expedited. We'll select normal. If it's expedited, meaning that we cannot do this change on a maintenance weekend, then we need to check the expedited box. The difference between the two is going to be the start and end date. If expedited is checked, then the start and end date is a free-form field from a calendar that you can select your dates. If expedited is not checked, and it's a normal change that will be performed on a maintenance weekend, then the start and end date is going to be within the next maintenance window. And you can click on Next to go through the upcoming maintenance weekends. And then you can also change your date and time as long as it's within the maintenance window weekend. So now that we have that, we need to create our title. And our description. And then our other details over here, we have protected data impact. Is this change going to impact our HIPAA information, our HIPAA data, income tax, different things like that? You can select yes or no. Documentation update applicable. Does this change require our documentation to be updated? If yes, then you'll select yes. If no, then no. And then we have our priority. We have the same grid that we use for incidents, enterprise site, multiple users, or user. You want to select which one that's going to affect. Then we have our risk. Then we have our hosted by and managed by. So some of our applications may be hosted by Columbus, some may be hosted by a vendor. Select the drop-down box and select the appropriate vendor once we get that populated. Outage. Is this change going to cause an outage? If yes, then you want to click on yes. And I'm going to do that just for training purposes so you can see the outage tab. And then of course we have our start and end date of the change. When are you going to perform this work? So our maintenance weekend is April 19th through the 21st. But we're going to go ahead and say we're going to do this on the 20th at 7 a.m. And we're going to conclude this change also on the 20th. And we're going to say we'll have this done by 9 a.m. Alright, now we want to go ahead and go through all of our tabs so we make sure we have everything filled out that is required of us. Department, we need to click on the departments that are affected by this change. So we want to click on the link button. And you can see that we have all of our departments listed. To select every department, so if it's a city-wide change, then you can hold down your control key and hit A, and that selects everything in the list. or you can click on one at a time, hold your shift key down and select several at a time, or you can hold your control key down and pick and choose which ones you have. And notice we also have a web external, so if this is going to affect the citizens or somebody outside of the city of Columbus, you can select that as well. Once you have your department selected, click on OK. Now we have our Incidents tab. Is there an incident related to this ticket, this change request, or is there a request? Did a customer ask for something to be updated? Then you can click on the link button here and select your request or your incident. Since this is a normal change, it doesn't matter if it's an incident or a request that you link it to, and it is not required either. Other change details. This is where we're going to put in our technical details of what we're going to do. Same with our impact and risk. What impact and risk does this have on our customers and our data? Now we move on to the Execution Details tab. What is our implementation plan? We want to make sure we are detailed with this. Same with our testing and our backouts. What are we going to do to test? And if we have to back out, what are we going to do to back out the system if the change caused an adverse reaction? Now we have our outage tab. This outage tab is only available if the outage is yes. If the outage is no, then the outage tab will not appear. So now, when will the outage occur? We want to make sure that we pick the time frame in between our change time frame. So we said 4:20 at 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. So we need to make sure that our outage is going to fall in between that time, and it defaults in between that time. So is it going to be the whole time that it's down, or is there going to be a shorter time frame? So we can go ahead and say 8 o'clock to 8:30. This will be down. What system is impacted? Just type your application in there. Right now this is a free-form field, and you can put in as many applications that you would like. We have our journal notes, if you want to create any notes in here. Tasks. Now, we do need to have at least one task is required. So if this is going to be something that you're going to do by yourself, then you can create a task for yourself. Or if this is going to involve many people, then you can have many different tasks assigned to different teams and people. So we're going to go ahead and create our task. And with our task, we also need to create a start and end time. And again, we want to make sure that it falls in between our change start and end times. So we said the 4:20, and we're going to say we need to do this at 8:30. And we're just going to go ahead and copy that in here and say we need to be done by 8:45. Okay. Now that is all of our tabs. We have our approval tab that we'll look at a little bit later in our administration tab, and that's all of the system details of the change, who created it, who executed it, who closed it. those types of details that you're familiar with, as in the incidents and request. Now, if we look over to our left, we have our process actions. Here we have ready for approval. So if I have everything done on this change, then I can click on ready for approval, and it will go to my manager to look it over to make sure everything looks according to plan and they approve of it. Or we can put it on hold if we need to do more work with this change and schedule our resources. Maybe we decided that after we saved this change request that it's no longer needed, so we can cancel it. If I need to get one of our customers approval or somebody else's approval, then I can click on other approvals applicable, and that's going to initiate an approval like you're familiar with the incidents and requests. So now that I have everything done, I do want to point out one other difference with normal and expedited. If I clicked on expedited, the expedited details tab will appear, and there's a justification. I need to justify why I am going to do this outside of our maintenance window. So we want to make sure we have a good explanation there so it will get approved. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and say ready for approval. Now this is going to go into a status of pending manager approval. So now I'm waiting for my manager to review the change and approve it. My manager can either approve it, which will then move it on to pending CAB review. My manager can deny it, which means that this is not approved and we're not doing this change at all. Rejected means that it needs more information. Maybe I didn't schedule all my resources, or the timing didn't work out and I need to reschedule, put a different time on there. Something just isn't quite right that we need to fix before we can move forward. Or if they think that we need more approvals, then my manager can also initiate an approval record here as well. So we're going to go ahead and click on approved. So now it's pending CAB review. Here we can wait for the CAB meeting, and once the CAB reviews it in the meeting, they can either say reviewed, ready for member approval, and this will send out a notice to each of the CAB members to approve individually. If everybody, all the CAB members on the phone approve at the time of the call, then the coordinator can click on approved by CAB, and then the change will be ready for scheduled. Or the CAB can deny it, which means no, we're not doing this, this is not approved, and it'll close the change. Rejected, like the managers rejected, it needs more information or needs more work, more resources need to be scheduled, or there was a conflict, so it was rejected and it needs to be rescheduled, or more information needs to be included in the ticket. So we're going to go ahead and say approved by CAB. So now our change is in scheduled status. And if you look at our approval tab, you can see that the manager approved it and the CAB approved it. If the CAB needed individual approvals, then you would see every individual CAB member on here listed and their approval. So from here, we can either do the work, or we can reschedule it, or we can cancel it. So if something comes up and we can't do this, then we can click on rescheduled and move it into a rescheduled state, and then go through the CAB process again. Or if the customer decided to cancel it, or we decided to cancel it, then we can go ahead and cancel. Or we can say, I'm ready to execute. So then we go to executed. Now that I executed the change, I have to fill in some information. and I have to determine whether or not it's fully implemented